You guys, look how quick I'm back. Like I said, that channeling is happening. So I did get like a green light, a clearance on talking about this subject from my higher self because I've wanted to talk about this for a while. And it's just one of those things, it's kind of not very classy, I should say, to talk about past relationships or your money. So I know not to go into those subjects too deeply, but I think my guides are showing me that this relationship in particular is such a pillar of karmic lessons that it may probably help somebody else in the long run. That's how potent and bad this relationship was. But I want to tell you that I consciously and knowingly went into it in the way I would say was like a strategic move. This was not me like being stupid and completely naive. I kind of knew what I was doing, and that's because I was listening to a YouTuber called SheraSeven.
And she's awesome. Shout out.
There was a time in my life where she was like my new mom, and I decided to really listen to her. I was in a really bad place, you guys, like really, really, really bad. I mean, like living out in the desert and having my skin like scorched. I had to like get my ass up. I didn't have the financial backing back then. So I decided to basically get to a place where I could get more resources. And it's interesting because there's another girl that's talking about how men in general use women as resources. And I kind of understand that. Like I was at a place where I was going to take advantage of that mentality myself. So don't judge me. This was a long time ago. Yeah, you can judge me. Whatever. I was being or I was being a gold digger, whatever you want to say. But I will add that this person was a very karmic soulmate. So I was very much wanting to be involved with him. Like I was fully attracted, like people didn't understand it, but I was like in a very karmic soulmate connection. So it wasn't just me looking for a sugar daddy, okay? It was already set up for me to just like get wiped out karmically because I was already soulmates with him. So we wanted to be together. And it was very difficult for us to get away from each other. But I will say, going back to the lessons that I learned from Shira, she basically is about using men as resources as well. It's just a way of flipping the script and, the gender games when it comes to hypergamy and it's just like basically tactics on ways to approach relationships strategically so you don't get so damaged and emotionally drained at the end, so that at least when he leaves you have something, I would say, financially. And I used her tactics pretty ruthlessly. I went after him in the way that I've never gone after a man in my life, and that is because I was not raised to be a gold digger per se. Like, my parents were pretty strict about my education and me getting my own career started, and they were like my coaches on that. So they didn't raise me to go after a man. But there was a time when, like I said, I got to this place where I was so financially drained because I had followed this path of wanting to be
a spiritual healer, and I was just completely lost in this like satanic world of wanting to
but it was weird. It's kind of like this catch 22. Like, yeah, Danielle, we want you to have education and career, but if you do get that man that is rich, that is a total plus. Like, we will help you with that as well. So my dad ended up meeting my boyfriend. They hit it off like completely. They were best friends from the very get-go. One of the things that you probably don't know about my parents, they were bikers like all throughout the 60s and the 70s and into the 80s, they were just nomadic, like Harley Davidson fanatics. So that's kind of in my blood to be a gypsy out here. I don't have my Harley, but that's what the tie was with my boyfriend and my dad. So, long story short, they had this like patriarchal partnership that was beyond me, and it really spoke in so many different circumstances. I would basically realize that I was the commodity and the resource, and I was being shoved into like this bubble that, you know, because I was using him, it was obvious that he was using me as well. One circumstance in particular, I always had this like shallow dream. I don't know, kind of stupid, but I wanted to somehow like come back to my hometown of origin and like just have this hot dude take me on a Harley like around Scottsdale. Like it's one of those towns, if you have a bike, you can ride down Old Town and it's just you're cool. Like you're cool. And I always saw them when I was younger growing up, and I always thought, well, I'm going to have my guy, like he's going to bring me back here. And I got my dream. My boyfriend had this awesome bike and he decided, well, let's go to Scottsdale and let's ride around. And before we did that, we ended up stopping at my parents' house, and we had to unload the bike because, you know, he had it on like this trailer and whatnot. And I noticed when he unloaded the bike, it only had one seat on it. And I was just like, whatever, he's gonna like put the seat on and blah, blah, blah. And he comes out of the truck and he's like, oh my gosh, I forgot the seat. And I was like, no, are you serious? And my dad was there and he's like, well, you know, I've been to some rallies, a lot of them girls, they don't really ride on much back there, you know. And I was like, no, like it was important to me that I was safe. You guys, riding on bikes is like, it's like the most dangerous thing you can do. And I wanted to look cute and cool, like I had my awesome outfit on, but I was like, I just don't feel safe, you know. This was my dream and I wanted to just look cute and cool, but I didn't want to freaking be afraid that I was going to fall off the bike. So it was kind of like this slap in the face from the universe. And it was this mounting and this building up of just trauma, of knowing that I wasn't being held. I wasn't being given a seat, you know, like I was just a, you know, this flashy commodity that he was flaunting. He didn't care if I was really safe. And the worst part is that we did end up going on the ride, and we ended up going on the freeway, and just to go to this place where my ego could be seen, and it wasn't even safe, and I didn't feel comfortable at all the whole time. And it was just a very good example of the entire relationship. It was never set up or geared to be a safe seat for me. It was never something that was meant to fulfill me and have, you know, that longevity in connection and love. It was shallow, and it was based off of looks and ego. And I will say that I sort of got to a place where I really hated myself for it. I never had my self-esteem tank that low. And it was at that time in my life that I realized that I could never, ever put myself in such a shady, down low, loser position, because this is what it did to me, you know. And I will speak to any woman who's out there who's on the fence of wanting to use a man or not for money. I will say, just because of the world that we're living in, this very patriarchal, programmed world, that man unfortunately will be predisposed to abuse you in some way. And it may be mentally, emotionally, or physically. So I would say the best thing you can ever do is distance yourself from having to go through that type of trauma. it is up to us to be able to detach from these men and have the strength to, deter them so that we can build up our own lives. So many women just don't know how strong we are. We don't know because society is just like, you're not. So when we have the strength to go our own way and build up our own lives and find ways to create our own businesses, we can see that, wow, we didn't need to have those men as crutches anymore, especially with all of the negativity that a lot of relationships with men can bring. Since I've decentered men as a whole, as I've been able to really focus my heart on my true goals in this life and what I want to live, I've never felt better. I've never looked better. A lot of the pain that I used to suffer from is now gone. I don't have that low self-esteem anymore. You guys can see me in my gymnastics videos. I lost that negative image of my body. It's not an object anymore. It's like something completely different that I built up as this machine. It's pure and it's made to work for God. It's a completely different life that I'm living financially as well. I don't need to text or call people or beg for attention or try to get people to like me. I really just need to be basically available for whatever service that this higher light force is asking me to be a conduit of. So it's very simple now. My life works a lot better outside of any of those tactical, strategic relationship dynamics. But if you're still stuck in the matrix, Shera is the game. The experience of this relationship, even though it completely traumatized me 100% and ruined my reputation and severed my relationship further with an abusive parent, it was worth it in the way that Shera's tactics worked. I was now in a higher class. Economic status wise, I had learned a new type of lifestyle by being in close proximity to a rich man. You get to see the way that rich people live. And I had seen wealth when I was younger, and I had been very close with wealthy people, but not as an adult. Not learning to live the way that I wanted to live, not just under my parents' roof, but just finding the lifestyle that I viewed as wealthy. And he gave me those keys. He was supportive in the way that he let me make this like quantum leap into a new type of reality. I couldn't have done it without him, and that is why I'm forever grateful for that experience. So it is worth it in some circumstances. I'm not going to beat any woman down that wants to be a gold digger because this life is rough. And if men want to use us as resources, we have every right to be able to do that as well. So I'm just going to leave it there. But I will say, protect yourself in every way, every single way, and do not give away your soul or your heart. It's not worth the money. And if you need resources, continue to work for them yourself.